I consider Jon Jones the greatest combat fighter of all time. Jon Jones is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter fucking ever.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the future. Johnny Bones Jones.
Fast, fatal, hard impact. Past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my
And he might be the greatest talent that we've ever seen in the UFC.
As they hear me snap, I got nothing to lose, cause I fought in
Jon Jones, the UFC's controversial star, has walked a tightrope between greatness and trouble throughout his career. Just when it seemed that he had found solid ground, new accusations threatened to upset his delicate balance. The champion's latest defense isn't in the Octagon, but against claims that have shocked the MMA world. And him being regarded as the UFC's top heavyweight, it seems he isn't just battling in the ring, his toughest fights happen outside of it. Dana White's recent comments about Jon Jones being the undisputed pound-for-pound best fighter have stirred controversy in the MMA community. White argues that Jones' move up to heavyweight and his dominant victory over the best guy in the world cement his position at the top. However, this stance raises questions about the nature of pound-for-pound rankings.
He's the best ever, and he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world.
White seems to conflate the concepts of greatest of all time, GOAT, and current pound-for-pound rankings. His argument leans heavily on Jones' career accomplishments rather than recent performances.
While Jon Jones is active, he is the greatest fighter in the world.
Did I not say that?
Yes.
This approach contradicts the traditional understanding of pound-for-pound ranking, which typically focus on a fighter's current form and recent achievements.
If you were coming into a fight and you fucking got hurt, that means you're not the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world anymore? How does that even make sense? It doesn't make sense.
The controversy is further fueled by White's dismissal of other contenders for the top spot, particularly Islam Makhachev.
I don't think he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. For anybody to call Islam the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world when Jon Jones is still fighting is nuts and shouldn't be ranking in the pound-for-pound or doing any of the rankings ever.
This has led to discussions about potential bias and the UFC's promotional priorities. Alex Pereira, the current UFC Light Heavyweight Champion, has hinted at a move at heavyweight, setting the stage for a potential showdown with Jones that could redefine the landscape of the sport. Pereira's rapid ascent through the UFC ranks has been nothing short of remarkable. With his vicious first-round knockout of Jamahal Hill at UFC 300, Powhatan has proved himself to be a formidable force. His unique striking style, honed through years of kickboxing, presents a fresh challenge to Jones' well-rounded skill set. The contrast between Pereira and Jones is stark. While Jones has been plagued by inactivity and controversy, fighting only once in the last 4 years, Pereira has been on a tear. Since joining the UFC in 2021, he has amassed a 5-1 record, capturing both the middleweight and light heavyweight titles in the process. Pereira's potential move to heavyweight adds another layer to the ongoing debate about pound-for-pound rankings. His ability to succeed across multiple weight classes challenges the notion that Jones should automatically retain the top spot based on past accomplishments. It also raises questions about how to evaluate fighters who consistently push their limits by moving up in weight. The possibility of a Jones vs. Pereira matchup has already begun to captivate the MMA world. It would pit Jones' legendary grappling and fight IQ against Pereira's devastating knockout power. Moreover, it would force Jones to face a new breed of challenger, one who has shown the ability to overcome adversity and adapt to new challenges quickly. This potential matchup also highlights the evolving nature of the sport as fighters like Pereira continue to push boundaries and move between weight classes. It becomes increasingly difficult to rely solely on historical accomplishments when determining pound-for-pound rankings. The MMA community may need to reassess how it evaluates fighters' current abilities and recent performances. As Jones prepares for his comeback and eyes a legacy fight with Stipe Miocic, the looming presence of Alex Pereira adds another intriguing dimension to his career narrative. Will Jones prove once again why he's considered one of the greatest of all time, or will Pereira's meteoric rise continue, potentially dethroning the long-reigning king of the sport? Jon Jones' career presents a unique challenge for pound-for-pound rankings. His historical dominance is undeniable, having been at the top of the sport nearly as long as the lightweight defense record has stood. Jones cleared out the light heavyweight division when it was highly competitive, often making it look effortless. However, Jones's recent career has been marked by inactivity and controversy. He's fought only once in the last 4 years, and his last few heavyweight bouts before moving to heavyweight were considered somewhat underwhelming by his lofty standards. His move to heavyweight and dominant win over Octagon demonstrated that Jones still possesses elite skills. Yet, his inactivity and selective approach to matchmaking, such as pursuing a fight with the inactive Stipe Miocic rather than facing newer heavyweight contenders, raises questions about how to rank him in the current pound-for-pound list. This dilemma highlights the core debate. How much should past accomplishments weigh against current activity and performance in pound-for-pound rankings? It also touches on broader questions about how rankings should be determined and what they should represent in the ever-evolving landscape of MMA. Jon Jones battles inside and outside the Octagon. While Jones' in-ring performances have cemented his place as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history, his out-of-cage behavior has consistently threatened to overshadow his athletic achievements. Jones' career has been marred by a series of legal troubles and drug-related incidents. In September 2021, he was arrested on charges of domestic battery, an event that seemed to make a turning point. Many believe Jones was finally ready to leave his troubled past behind and focus solely on his fighting career. However, controversy found Jon Jones again earlier this year. A UFC drug testing agent, Crystal Martinez, filed a police report alleging that Jones had threatened her life. Jones vehemently denied these accusations, even sharing CCTV footage that he claimed proved his innocence. This incident once again thrust Jones into the spotlight for reasons unrelated to his fighting prowess. Dana White found himself addressing Jones' latest troubles. Speaking on the Club Random podcast, White expressed frustration not just with Jones' behavior, but with the media's handling of the situation. He pointed out that some outlets had erroneously reported Jones' arrest, highlighting the often sensationalized coverage of the fighter's personal life.
It's hard to bring this guy to Las Vegas for any reason. The city is not good for Jon Jones. And here we are again.
What was your reaction when you first got the news that there had been another incident?
It's like it's not even shocking anymore. It's when we bring him here, it's almost expected. You know, you can't even get him in Las Vegas for less than 12 hours to induct him into the Hall of Fame. It's a problem. You know, this guy's got a lot of demons, man. A lot of demons.
Despite these ongoing issues, Jones remained focused on his fighting career. Currently sidelined with an injury, he's eyeing a return to the Octagon later this year. His insistence on facing Stipe Miocic in a legacy fight rather than unifying the heavyweight title against interim champion Tom Aspinall has drawn both criticism and intrigue from fans and pundits alike. As Jones prepares for his comeback, the MMA world watches with bated breath. Will his undeniable talent in the cage finally overshadow his troubles outside of it, or will Jon Jones' legacy forever be a tale of what might have been? A cautionary story of greatness repeatedly derailed by personal demons? UFC 151 was scheduled for September 1st, 2012, featuring light heavyweight champion Jon Jones defending his title against Dan Henderson. This event would become infamous in UFC history, not for what happened in the Octagon, but for what didn't happen at all. Approximately 8 days before the event, Dan Henderson was forced to withdraw due to a knee injury. The UFC, following its standard procedure, sought a replacement opponent. They approached Chael Sonnen, who agreed to step in on short notice to face Jones for the title. However, Jones and his coach Greg Jackson declined the fight. The reasoning was that 8 days wasn't sufficient time to prepare for a new opponent with a different fighting style. This decision had unprecedented consequences. For the first time in history, the UFC was forced to cancel an entire event. Dana White, the UFC president, announced the cancellation on August 23, 2012, during a media call that would become notorious in MMA circles. White's reaction was severe and public. He branded Greg Jackson a sport killer and called the decision selfish and disgusting. He emphasized the wider impact of the cancellation, noting that it affected 16 other fighters on the card, their families, and various stakeholders in the event. Jones defended his position in an interview with MMA Junkie, acknowledging the criticism but standing by his decision. He stated, "I have to be the man that I am. With such large audiences comes great criticism." Jackson also defended their choice, arguing that taking a fight against a high-caliber opponent on such short notice wasn't a wise career move. And surprisingly, following UFC 303, where several fighters accepted short-notice bouts, White brought up the UFC 151 incident again. He praised the current crop of fighters and coaches for their willingness to step up, directly contrasting them with Jones and Jackson's 2012 decision. White's comments, even years later, demonstrated that the UFC 151 cancellation remained a significant point of contention. He stated, "Thank God those expletive days are gone. It was the silliest thing I've seen in the history of this sport," clearly indicating that the incident had left a lasting impact on his relationship with Jones and his perception of the fighter's legacy.